Yeah, the cooking.
Yeah. Now recording. Thanks, Craig. All right, we're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay, joined with Christian, Christopher, and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello there.
There it is.
One day, you'll say hi, guys.
Nope.
I might. We'll see.
Yeah,
leave him with
the
that
day
hope.
I'm missing, I have to skip because I got
Yes.
bone-itis or something. You'll be like, hi, guys.
Yep.
Bone-itis is a serious condition, and we need to have a PSA about that. So let's stay tuned to the end. Craig will tell you guys about that.
Yeah. Chris isn't here. He's actually out at one of those used bookstores in his town that don't exist, shopping
Don't
right
exist.
now.
Yep.
So-
Late night shopping.
Yeah.
Oh, I want you guys to know that.
Beyond.
I want you guys to notice that when I get to the point where I talk about what I did this weekend, there were plenty of pinball games. There was a John Wick pinball game, an X-Men pinball game, a Jaws pinball game. It was amazing.
There's no pinball games where you live. You've
There's
told
none.
us this before.
None at all. Yep.
So anyway, getting on to the actual topic, since we were talking about it before we logged on, this tabletop simulator for Shadowdark.
You skipped the where we could be found.
We'll get to that later.
Okay.
No, we better do that now, or we won't get to it later. But yeah, find us on all our social medias, Grumpy Dungeon Masters. We do Twitch Tuesdays, Thursdays,
And Saturdays.
and sometimes
live play
Saturdays.
D&D.
Yeah, live play D&D on Twitch.
And we're on Spotify, all podcastings on YouTube, at Grumpy
Wherever
Dungeon
you find
Masters on Facebook.
podcasts.
Which is really only two places, Spotify and Apple. I don't think
Apple.
there's anything else exists.
There are, but they're just not as widely used. But there definitely are.
Yeah, because YouTube has our YouTube channel imports our podcast, but it always fails. So I have to pay a third party service to put this up on YouTube as a podcast. So
Thanks, YouTube.
yeah, I should look into that.
Thanks for nothing.
We should talk about that, yeah, but off the podcast. I could probably fix that, but yeah.
All right.
So Tabletop Simulator, you found this thing of Shadowdark on Tabletop Simulator.
Yep.
And it looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really investigated it much. I just literally was looking at Reddit right before I hopped on, and somebody had posted something about their setup for running Shadowdark, and they've only been, playing 3 sessions on it. So they said it works brilliantly compared to Roll20 and Owlbear Rodeo, especially for OSR games and for Shadowdark in particular, because you literally have the virtual spots where people are sitting, and since initiative goes around a table for Shadowdark, that it makes a lot of sense to do it that way. And
so, what is Tabletop Simulator? Because I've never heard of it. I know people that have used it, but I thought it was just for 3D chess and stuff like that.
Well, I've used it. I've used it off and on for a couple of years. Really, kind of used it a few times during the pandemic. But it is a sort of a generic catch-all thing that you can build out any sort of game into. I've played a number of board games in it before. Everybody had their own specific board game thing that you can download from Steam, and it works. It works pretty decently if you have somebody who has enough experience with it. Basically, say, here, do that, do this. But it's really easy to pick up. It's literally virtually being at a tabletop.
Yeah,
okay,
so
it actually simulates being at a table.
Yes,
it kind of does. Yeah, as well as you can virtually. It's the experience. Is everything from very manual with some board games where you are literally picking up little digital chits and stuff just like you would at a table, to some people that if you know how to program for the system, you can automate some of the things almost like you would in some video games. I know I played some board games with some of our friends who were using modules for it that they automated a lot of the stuff. So you would just drag your token or whatever into a certain spot on the board, and it would do whatever game logic or calculation was necessary there for you.
Yeah, so way back in 2020, years and years and years ago, when the world shut down, and I was trying to figure out how are we going to continue playing Dungeons and Dragons. The very first thing I attempted it with was Tabletop Simulator. So I was able to build dungeons in this thing beautifully. It's kind of like playing around with Dwarven Forge pieces. You can lay out all your tiles, you can build whatever you want to in there. The biggest problem that I ran into, me and one of my players at the time tried to test this thing out just to see how it would work, and their computer really couldn't run it very well. So it tends to be somewhat of a graphics hog. Unfortunately, if you don't have at least a modest computer, it's probably not going to work so well. It's a little slow at times. It's a little clunky at times, but it does. Nothing's going to simulate being around a table better than that, other than actually being around a table.
Yeah. And I looked into this also back in 2020 in the days of yore, which seemed like 20 years ago, not 5. But it's come a long way since then, and a lot more things have been added to it. A lot of mods have been done to it. People do love it, and the people that love it do a lot of free modding for it. And I just saw, I was curious because this was talked about 5 years ago. I just looked into it again. There's a VR mod for it. You can literally just put on a VR headset, simulate your rolling dice, pick up cards, look at them, act like you're at a table if you wanted to do that. I'm not really into VR. It makes me feel a little queasy, but that's actually a really cool use of VR.
Yeah.
It is.
If you're into VR, that would be the way to fucking do it.
Because that's how you really simulate having a D&D game with people from across the country or across the world. Because you look around, you look left, look right, you look where the DM is, and he has his little, DM's set kit set up over there. He's got the battle map set up that he's literally drawing on with, a virtual pen, and it feels like you're playing D.
And he looks over and wonders, why are you stacking your dice?
Are you paying attention? No.
Obviously not.
So yeah, there's that. Anyway, but yeah, they've made a Shadowdark conversion that, like I said, we've only got a couple of little pictures of it here, but it looks really freaking cool.
Yeah, definitely worth exploring. And we'll have to take a look at it and report back. I've got Tabletop Simulator, so I'll see if I can find the mod and see what I can do with it.
Yeah, sounds good. So Chris, you here? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Making sure you weren't off, not doing things. So you ran some tabletop games this weekend. Tell us about them.
We all ran games
Well,
this weekend.
I didn't get to, unfortunately.
I didn't.
Boo!
Boo.
I played
You said
it
you were
again.
gonna run one, and
Oh,
we were
I
all
was-
going to
I-
talk about it.
I was scheduled to run one, and then we spent 2 hours making characters and did what unfortunately friends do when you get together, shooting the shit. And before we knew it, it was kind of late to be playing. So
that sounds awesome. But you should
Oh,
talk
it
about
was a-
that.
it was a
you
great
talked about
time.
it. You're done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was a great time, but we didn't play any tabletop games.
I mean, we're dice rolled.
With character creation, yes, because it was
You
Dungeon Crawl
played the
Classics.
game then.
It was Dungeon Crawl Classics, so you have to roll dice and come up with stats. There were definitely hit point dice rolled. Some one player got 1 extra hit point for becoming level 1, and a couple of people got max hit points. So
I would say you did indeed actually play a tabletop game, even if it was just character creation.
I mean, that's the mini game in and of itself, right?
Yeah. I mean, if this was 4th edition, you have to spend 8 hours doing that shit.
I mean, truthfully, we could have been done in an hour, but yeah, we fuck off. That's just that we have fun when we're together. So we shoot the shit and talk about things, and next thing you know, time's passed and it's too late to play.
I think that still sounds great. I wouldn't mind, honestly. I do remember I'll tell a quick story. I do remember one time where I invited one of my friends, John, over to play D&D, and I had to basically teach him how to play D&D. But he's a smart guy, so he kind of figured it all out. And we spent probably about 2 hours, putting together his character, exactly how he kind of wanted to build it out. And we were starting at a little bit higher of a level, so we had to kind of go through that process as well. And it took us, 3-4 hours because fourth edition was just terrible like that. But we had a great time. I still remember it fondly. It wasn't a bad time at all, And like you said, we just sat around and talked. I think that is a good session of tabletop gaming. If you had fun, then that's it.
We called it session 0, even though
Yeah.
it wasn't session 0 because we already played one game. But
fair enough. So yes, I did indeed get a chance to run games. So out here in Charleston, we have a reoccurring. It's not really a convention, but it's like a mini convention. There are vendors. I bought an amazing dice tower from one of the vendors that were there. Unfortunately, I don't have the card on me to promote them. I'll bring it up next time. But they have like this dice tower that you drop the dice in, or it looks like an actual like medieval, tower. All right. It's stone brickwork and all that stuff. They painted it. It looks great. And you drop dice into the top, and all the dice come out at the bottom, where it gets caught by like a little gated patio, essentially. Then you could press down on top of the tower, and it throws the dice back up into the tower, and then like re-rolls the dice for you. So you basically have 2 ways of rolling the dice: dropping it in the top, or just pressing the thing down, and it re-rolls everything for you.
how does that work?
Like a little spring mechanism inside of it. It's pretty great, actually.
So it's got perfect spring and accuracy to always go back to the top.
It doesn't throw it back in the top. It's like it's got its own like little chamber to throw the dice back into. It's like it just like folds up into itself and like chucks the dice back up this like little ramp, and it gets re-rolled.
Okay.
But it was very cool, and they gave me a deal on it because that's all the cash I had left in my wallet, And I'm basically going to leave it at Synergy and let people who need a dice tower use it, because it was actually fairly well put together, and they had a lot of other 3D prints. The lady that was there that does all the 3D prints says that she designs them all herself, and I have to believe her because I don't know enough. But she had a lot of creative designs, and at very least a lot of unique pieces that I have seen. Like, we've all seen like the dice tray inside of a sword,
Mm-hmm.
I see it all over Etsy. I see it at every little vendor shop, and she had her own, but it was very different. And there wasn't just like a coloration thing or a size thing. Like, it actually had like a squeeze release added to it. And it had like its own like built-in scabbard and stuff like that. So it definitely seemed like, even if she had taken the base model, she did a lot of like customization to it to make it more unique. I'm getting kind of off point, but like I said, there were a lot of vendors at Nerdfest. It was hosted at a Frothy Beard Brewing Company, as a local distillery here in Charleston. And essentially we had about maybe 10 to 15 different tables running all sorts of board games, and Warhammer, Magic the Gathering, Lorcana was being played. I saw people playing 5th edition, some Pathfinder, a lot of Shadowdark. Dragon's Bane was played as well. There was a lady there that I met at Free RPG Day who wanted to run Star Trek, but she was instead running something from Call of Cthulhu there. So there was a lot of different DMs, a lot of varied different people running a lot of creative stuff. And I was there, and I got a chance to run the Kingdom of Keshanar one shot that they have out there for free on DriveThruRPG. For those who don't know, DriveThruRPG is like the non-D&D branded side of DM's Guild. So like if you want to find Shadowdark modules someone publishes, You could probably find those on Drive Through RPG, all third party or independently created stuff. So you can go on there and you can get what's called the Perfect Trap. Perfect Trap being spelled Purr, purr as in cat.
Yeah.
The module is kind of like an introductory module to the Keshanar setting. And the premise behind it is all the cats are missing in Keshanar. Some people are taking that as an omen that something bad's about to happen. And the players do discover a cat and follow it through the story. They do find out that there is a bad omen happening, that the god Set is trying to come out from the underworld and, you know, come to the material world and start wreaking havoc and stuff like that. And I ran 2 different tables with 2 very different groups of people. The first group was very methodical and thought out everything. And they kind of figured out all the puzzles and tricks. I'm being a little vague about the specifics there because, like, if you haven't had a chance to play it, it's, I don't want to spoil anything. Except I will say that the MacGuffin of the whole story is an item called the Blood of the Phoenix. And it's important to know because the Blood of the Phoenix is essentially not only MacGuffin in the story, but in the Keshanar setting, and this is in the module. It essentially helps like write things into it codifies things into the universe. So if you were to take the Blood of the Phoenix, use it as ink, and write on a piece of parchment that all dogs are made of rubber, all dogs in the universe will become made of rubber. That's how powerful the Blood of the Phoenix is. And the players get visions saying that Set wants to use this blood to get free of the underworld. So the first group, who was very methodical and thought out everything, was able to find the Blood of the Phoenix, find their little MacGuffin, and the bad guy of the scenario was kind of kicking their ass. So the barbarian of the group decided to drink the Blood of the Phoenix. Now, there are no rules as to what happens when someone drinks the Blood of the Phoenix. And I'm friends with David, the creator of Keshanar, on Discord. So I reached out to him and said, "Hey, David, what happens if somebody drinks the Blood of the Phoenix?"
Oh, God.
And unfortunately, he didn't reply in time, but I essentially said, "Okay, a barbarian, you will have resistance to all damage, you have double move speed, you swing radiant damage. Hell, you deal an extra 1d10 radiant damage on top of that. You're essentially a demigod, because that's how powerful the Blood of the Phoenix is." Okay? And they went from basically this losing scenario to winning the scenario pretty handily. And it was amazing. I thought it was great. David did respond before the next group came in to play the same module. Said, "Yeah, we have a couple ideas kicking around, but we don't have anything set in stone. It's amazing that someone drank it." He said, "That's the first I've heard of it."
That's great.
So I was like, "Okay, it's awesome." So I go through the same scenario with the next group. The next group is 3 people who have never played Dungeons and Dragons before. One person who has, and the other person who is a backer of the Keshanar setting on Kickstarter and part of the Discord and everything. And she's also a DM, and we just wanted to have a lot of fun playing this setting. And we were kind of going through it, and there was a lot more learning curve how things work because of the 3 new players. In fact, one of the new players who said that he didn't know how to play, he'd never played D&D at all, just knew how to play. But I kind of overheard that he was playing some Shadowdark and stuff, so he may have never played 5th edition, but he definitely knew how to play the game. And he was perfectly fine. You know, we had to clarify some rules about smites and stuff from the player's handbook, 2024 player's handbook, but, I still have to do that anyways. The other 2 were new. One was a cleric and the other was the barbarian. So in this case, when they get to the final boss, they get into the first round versus the bad guy. They have the MacGuffin. The barbarian has the MacGuffin. And can you guys think of what this barbarian does with the blood of the Phoenix?
My assumption would be he forgets he's got it.
He also drinks it.
Dan, any thoughts?
About drinking it? I mean, I drink it for sure.
You drink it for sure. No, what this second barbarian decided to do is he decided to use it as a weapon and threw it at the bad guy. And it's an improvised weapon, right? So it hits the bad guy. All right, does improvised weapon damage plus his strength modifier plus the barbarian rage. I do a quick little roll to see if the vial of the blood shatters, and it came out that it didn't shatter. But then it was the bad guy's turn right after him, and the bad guy wanted the blood. So the bad guy picked up the blood, and he has this ability as a bonus action to basically portal to the Duat and basically kind of use it as a misty step. But I was thinking, like, if he has the blood and can portal to the Duat, then he just leaves with the blood and gives it the set.
Do.
I mean,
Goal accomplished, yeah.
Goal accomplished, yeah.
Good job, buddy.
And the best part was is the girl that was the backer. Her name was Laura. I looked at Laura once he threw the vial and hit her, and I kind of just went, should I do what I think I'm about to do? And she goes, absolutely do it. Teach this newbie a lesson.
Wow.
So I was like, done. And yeah, so I picked up the blood, portal to the Watt, and kind of explained that at the end of the round, the fabric of reality gets ripped open as this blood portal appears, and the god Set walks through and divinely smites you all. Set the fade to black. And the new player, the barbarian, is like, so we lost? It's like, yeah, dude, you gave him the blood. And you caused the end of the world. And he goes, oh man, I wish I could take that back. It's like, well, I was like, let me be honest with you. Like, if we were really playing this game and we were doing this as a full campaign, I wouldn't have smited you and just said, cut the black. I would have let you live, and that's where the campaign would have gone forward. We would have gone forward with this new campaign, this new storyline of Set having reached the material plane and is now wreaking havoc with all of his, underlings, whatever they may be, So, like, you set the story in motion. It may not be the story that I had initially planned, but I can definitely work with this. This is a great start to the story, So, it was quite entertaining. The players loved it. They were all laughing at the end and how it all ended. And then I messaged David and said, hey, David, has anyone ever thrown the blood to the bad guy so he could win? He goes, no, that's never happened either. It's like, I'm so glad I get to run this twice and give you two scenarios that have never happened in you playing this for like countless times the past couple years,
I am honestly surprised that nobody has thought to just imbibe it before. That just seems like the kind of thing that someone would try.
I hear blood of the Phoenix. I think it's a potion.
Yeah, it seems like the kind of thing that somebody would try either to like empower themselves or to, bring someone back to life. It just seems like the kind of thing a player would try. I think I would have done something differently than you, but
I didn't, it's an item that rewrites the rules of the universe, so it's like you literally could have done anything, and that's correct, you could take it, put on the axe, and says this axe cuts through everything in existence, and now that axe does, so
it's the Infinity Gauntlet.
This axe is Wolverine. Ha! I win.
Yeah, which is why I think for me, if somebody had drank it, my thought would have been like, okay, you get real power for a bit, and then it kills you.
Yeah. I definitely
I like that too, because you just drank something you had no idea about. You're just like, let's just see how it works. And yeah, I like where you went with it, and like you gave him the real ultimate power. But it's one of those things that you're a 5th level freaking character. you are not ready to ride this ride of becoming a demigod.
Yeah, you're immortal, much like
you're gonna burn out and fade away like the Kurgan up in here.
yeah, much like a mortal. Yeah, you're immortal, messing with the power of the gods. You get to do something cool for a little bit, but then it ultimately kills you. Much like the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos could use it, but when Tony Stark tried to use it, he was able to, but it proved fatal.
And I definitely agree. Definitely bringing in some more of the Phoenix mythology to the Phoenix blood, would work, So, I'm not sure what eventually they'll end up on, but I'm sure it's probably something in the middle ground of that. But it's supposed to be this rare substance, so I'm not sure if it even would come up in a normal campaign game. So, but yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I got to see a lot of my friends and other DMs in the area. Another funny bit was I was talking to, there was two people who basically set up and ran it. The one guy was the guy handling all the vendors and the acquisitions for that and the spacing and the venue and stuff like that. His name was John. And Dungeon Lord Jay, a guy we've had on the podcast, a friend of the podcast, he has his own YouTube channel and his own D&D stream. He handled all the DMs and setting up the games and everything. So I got a chance to meet him. But I was talking to John. And he said, "Hey, we have shirts for all the DMs. I heard that you were a giant and needed a 5XL T-shirt." He's like, "I wasn't able to acquire a 5XL T-shirt, but I got a 3XL shirt. Would that fit?" And I was like, "Unfortunately, buddy, the 3XL shirt just does not fit me. It's not long enough. It's very tight on me, and yeah, it's like I don't really need a shirt." He's like, "Well, I'll give you one." It's like, you give it to your wife or your kid or something. And I was like, "All right, I'll do that." So I have a shirt for Nerdfest. It was a fantastic shirt. They really went all out for those. But it was great to see all the DMs wearing the Nerdfest shirts. I wore my Beholder T-shirt because that just seems to be a staple now for me.
Yep, you do love beholders.
Yeah, I love beholders. But that was the games that I ran, and I know, Dan, you ran a game.
Yeah,
What happened?
That's why I wasn't at Nerdfest.
Okay, I have to ask Dan. Was it actually 10 hours of gaming?
It was 12.
I am so fucking jealous.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
We intend. I said we were going to start at 11, and as expected, everyone did not arrive on time. I think 2 people arrived before 11. Most people rolled in around 11:30 to 11:45, and there's the standard BSing, and the fact that we have been playing digitally for the last 9 months, and was the last time we actually played in person. So everyone had to like refamiliarize themselves with their character sheets, make sure that all their magic items were printed out, or if not, they had access to them on Roll20 where all their stuff is at. Figure out a plan of what they're actually going to do, who they're going to call in for allies, etc., and so on. So actual like opening the door and figuring out what the heck is going on and what they're doing. I think, Christian, correct me if I'm wrong, 1 o'clock is when you guys finally started, like pushing forward.
1 o'clock was when we opened right around then is when we opened the door to the tower and actually got to like miniatures on the battle map doing stuff instead of us just we were playing the game. We were coming up with
they were planning, figuring out who to talk to, sending out sendings, trying to get allies available to come help them out, things like that.
But yeah, that was when we started to roll dice on the table and stuff started to happen.
Yeah,
got it.
So
and it went for. I know you guys didn't.
It went till midnight. It went till midnight. And a couple of people helped me. Like, I mean, we were there the entire time. Like, we had maybe a 45-minute break in the middle of it, so we can get somebody to go pick up some pizza. But we ate pizza and ate snacks at the table and continued going for most of it. And I will say that I stayed up way too late the night before making my secret special surprise, which I threw in the podcast chat. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's the I made busts of all the characters with basically like their first edition style title they would have earned from being 15th level when they ended the campaign.
That's awesome.
And I had both my FDM and my resin printer running pretty much nonstop for a week to get these goddamn things printed. Couple of failures here and there, blueprints not starting, spools catching, and just getting caught up in work and then not being able to get back to it. And either way, I was up till 5 o'clock in the morning before before the game, so I was already dead tired by the time everyone rolled up. So of course I'm running on coffee and Celsius by the time we actually start rolling dice.
It was
But
like you're 20 years old again or something.
which was fine. I was fine with running it all until about 10:30, and I was losing track of what was happening. And I was like, oh my god. And I kept on turning to Christian. I'm like, Christian, what'd she say? I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I had to start
Several
kind of like,
times. Like I was just like zoning out because I'm busy like writing. I feel like I'm writing down the information of, okay, Josh did this much damage, and I'm writing this down. She only takes half from that weapon because it's not named, but she takes double from the radiant damage. And I'm doing math, and then I'm hearing like something lightning bolt from somebody else out of my ear, but I didn't hear the whole thing. And I blink, and then everyone's looking at me and like, Christian, what'd she say?
yeah.
Like I was on. I was like, I don't know. I was like on a cloud or something. But it was so late. I just didn't want to take any more caffeine because I was like, okay, we're just gonna finish this one way or the other. And you do those things where like you want to make sure the thing finishes, but you want it to be climactic enough that it's not obvious that you're holding back some stats. But I wrote out stats that I definitely did not use or forgot to use. Forgot to use layer actions, which I always do, which is I'll be happy when I do on 5e, so I never have to do that again. And I reversed some stats like the 3 forms of the Frostmaiden. I just basically upgraded the CR10 version, which is in the actual book, to CR20. So she was very dangerous, but the PCs, with the 2 hours of planning time that they had in the very beginning, literally called in every person they'd ever saved or owed them a favor or befriended throughout the entire campaign. So I have a list for you. So all of us have played Baldur's Gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All of us have beaten Baldur's Gate. When you get
I
to
have.
the end of it, there's the quote unquote gather your allies quest, right? That begins like probably actually in the first chapter of Baldur's Gate. But things that they had like done and people they had befriended that could actually help them. This is the list. So I ran the alternate version of Yithrin, where like of the 8 mage towers, because like the base book is just kind of a fucking map with some brief ass descriptions, and you got to go here and maybe fight a monster or two in order to gather the 8 parts of the arcane octet, and it's just kind of lame. So I forgot who wrote it up. Maybe Waples can look it up, and because I'm sure he knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but,
I do actually.
But essentially, it turns like essentially a session of just let's go knock down the door of all these towers and grab all the stuff into 8 sessions of actually just mini dungeons, and it was a lot of fun. And 2 of the mini dungeons, you have the opportunity to save 2 of the archmages. One of them's the archmage who's the necromancer, Katavix, who's basically in a gem, who then tries to possess the first person that walks into the room, which he did. And he managed to convince the party to save him rather than just, to beat the snot out of the person that he's possessing and destroy the gem. So he then basically owed them. So then he's trying to find... Yeah.
I think it's the Yithrin Expanded Towers of Magic bundle on DM's Guild.
Yeah.
Made by Daniel Kahn. I use them as well too for
It was very good. It was very well written.
Yeah, very well written. I mean, heck, it comes with all the maps and arts. That's why I bought it just for that. And he did expand them out quite well without like detracting from the rest of the actual like book. It was very good added content.
Yeah. So, and part of that, like the whole a high necromancer thing is he's in love with the high enchantress, who's also available to be saved, but she essentially has been mind fuggled by, God, what's the name of the critter that they had in there? Some sort of crazy creature that basically reads your mind, takes over all of your abilities, and can keep you alive indefinitely as it acts like you're it, as if it's you, and has like literally a tether that leads off from it as it coalesces into a simulacrum of you. And then tries to lure in other people to basically absorb their memories and everything like that. I forgot the name of the creature, but it was really cool. And they managed to basically free her from this, get her a greater restoration, and got them reunited. So the two archmages, who were two original Yithrin archmages, owed them something. So they were there. So basically, they were able to help them teleport in their other allies, and I kind of made up a way for them to do that. So they had Valine Harpel, who was an ally that could come in. I don't know if you guys did the side quest with Dazan, the illusory Dazan that could possibly become a real boy if you did the right thing in the tower out in the middle of in Icewind Dale.
Yep.
So they did that, and there was a percentage chance that his alignment flips because he was chaotic evil, but then he became chaotic good.
Can I do a quick aside on that?
Yeah.
My players, when they were making him a real boy, decided and used their. I had an arcane, or I had a rune giant like fighter, and he decided to change one of the runes when making him a real boy into the rune for the Frostmaiden, and essentially made a real boy for the Frost under the Frostmaiden's control. That was the intent from the player, so that's what happened, and he critically passed his Arcana check to get that to happen, which was quite hilarious.
My players when they were doing that quest, and it's been years, so I barely even remember this thing. But
it was 7 years for me. It was like 4 years ago they did this quest.
Yeah, I don't recall the details, but I'm pretty sure they screwed up the ritual to make him into a real boy and accidentally killed him.
Well, it was a very high percentage chance that you just kill him. Like
Yeah.
it was a 10% chance that he actually survives. And I was very surprised when they rolled it. I was like, okay, well, let's see where this goes then. So anyway, they called them in. And do you remember the side quest of the elf mummy that smelled like pumpkin spice? I shit you not. Written up in the book.
Yeah, my players didn't get to do that one. That was a side quest they missed.
So
my players did, and they just ruffle stomped that mummy.
So the mummy wasn't evil. Like
No.
even written in the book, the mummy is not evil. So the druidess Ravison, I think, shows up to like throw down with the PCs once like you awaken the mummy. So they fought with the mummy to destroy the evil frost druid, and then just kind of let her go wander off into the wilderness. And the old mummy, the old good elven mummy, was just so weird, that smells like pumpkin spice, was a priestess of Elisatre, which is like the good drow god. So they called upon her because she was back when she helped them, she was a lot more powerful than they were. So she shows up. The Redhead tribes, which they basically solved all their issues with them, and helped defeat Bjorn Hilda. Then the Goliath clans, and then there is the Dryad that is in the Caves of Hunger that they saved.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess didn't save. They basically made a deal with it. They'd come and free her. Basically, she's bound to this tree in the middle of an ice cube, and she can't get out. She can't go anywhere because she's stuck to this tree because of the magic from the mages. But by the same token, the PCs had checked off, like, I swear to God, every single frost druid within Icewind Dale must have like thousands of gold pieces of components to awaken every fucking animal that exists. Because there's like, I kid you not, a dozen awakened animals in the book, and they're all good guys.
Yeah,
They're like, all of them are good. Because like the awakening and loyalty to the person that basically awakens you doesn't last, and they're just like, oh, we're just an animal, and like, there's a fucking awakened goodberry bush in the goddamn elfin tomb.
that was my wife's
whale. And...
that was my wife's favorite NPC of all time, and she purposely went out of her way to eat as many berries as she could, and just was like, I'm gonna get people blue teeth no matter what.
So Hathawin, the Dryad, along with basically their contingent of awakened animals, a bunch of giant walruses, the awakened shrub, Kingsport, the giant penguin that you meet in the library in Yithrin. They had an owl bear that was a companion from Owl Bear Whisperer, I think, was the secret. So they had an owl bear that showed up as well, like to basically also help them out. And then also the Nautiloid, they actually made a deal and freed the Nautiloid for the gnome Ceramorphs. And I had added like a little thing because I like flumps. So I put a flump in there with them, and that was kind of a thing. So the flump was actually a cleric, and he got to help them out too. Um, and you know the egg, like the silver dragon egg at the top of Grimskala and the Rock's Nest. They never really explained that, so I just kind of went, kind of read into it probably further than the original authors kind of intended, and made it so that essentially the Frostmaiden had that egg and was going to trade it to Arviatoris in order for her to help her basically do what she needs to do and continue the Rime and fully take over Icewind Dale. But the Ranger went up there, like stealthily snuck past the rock flying overhead, stole the egg and ran back. So I know you have seen the book, or you've looked through the book, Waples, so at Minsk and Boo's Journal of Villainy. You've read through that?
Yeah.
On page 64, there's a bunch of different really cool group patrons in that book, which I thought was a really cool idea. I didn't really get to do too much of it because I didn't get the book until 3 or 4 years into the game, but the Ranger starts carrying around this fucking silver dragon egg for a couple of weeks, and she's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this thing. And I read through that section for the Knights of Bahamut, and one of the things that you can do that is literally a quest in the book is dragon egg. Steal a dragon egg from a chromatic dragon that raided the nest of metallic dragon. Well, it's not quite the same, but a goddess did it.
Yeah.
And one of the perks that you can get is essentially you can get a dragon that will be in service to you, or at least owe you a favor. So essentially, they essentially called up that group patron and said, "Here, keep this secret, keep it safe." And they managed to sacrifice an artifact and essentially got themselves a dragon that would come in a pinch and do them a favor. And I essentially had written it up so that the dragon could essentially just negate the Frostmaiden's rock whenever the time came. When she definitely did. It did work out pretty flawlessly as far as that's concerned. But those were the allies that they had. They also had I don't know if you guys remember this one. There was a doppelganger that was sequestered in the prison in Yithrin. Did you guys read about that? Did your PCs ever go there?
Yep.
So the cleric and the druid in my group. So essentially, you find a operation table that has a cloth over it, and you open it. You take the cloth off, and there's nothing there. But if you feel it, there's clearly a body there. So the druid and the cleric, for whatever reason, both freaked out. It's like we gotta fix this. I don't know what the fuck's going on here, but there's a person here, and I can't see him. And they just cast dispel magic 6 times until it worked, until they could fucking free this guy. And of course, they had this. By the time they actually stumbled upon this guy, they had completed 90% of Yithrin. So he's a doppelganger that was there to assassinate Eriolathus and got caught. So he literally knows everything about the place, all the phrases, all the codes, what to wear, what to look like. He's a doppelganger. And since Christian's character had the doppelganger secret, he's like, oh, I can't actually trust these people. They literally have a doppelganger with them. So he actually kind of became a /follow companion for him, and his only goal was to destroy Eriolathus. So essentially, I had Eriolathus's phylactery tied to Eriolathus's staff of power, which is as you guys know, is the staff of power that you can also break against the obelisk in order to go back in time.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that after you were done here. I wanted to find out what they actually there's 2 things. 1, what did they do with that? And 2,
you'll like it.
and 2, there's a scroll of cataclysm or apocalypse
Comet,
or something.
Scroll of Comet and Scroll of Tarrasque Summoning.
Yeah, those. I want to know what they did with them.
Don't forget also. So I also had. I think I might have talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but in the museum there, I put a Sphere of Annihilation in there to see if they'd fuck around with it. They decided not to. Well, they tried to destroy the Codicil of White in it, but just fell right through it because they're both artifacts. But they decided, you know what, we're gonna just leave this here. But more on that later. So the Staff of Power. I guess I can backtrack a little bit to fighting Eriolothus. I obviously up the stats of Eriolothus, turned him into like a 2024 version of a Demi-Lich, which is just much more potent than the 2014 version, which is kind of just meh. It's a pushover. And really they didn't know much about fighting this guy other than the fact that he could have a whole lot of spells. Spoilers, he didn't. He's still just a Demi-Lich. And two, somebody made a high enough religion or arcana check that they knew basically they just need to throw a silence spell on themselves to not just get fucking mauled immediately when it starts howling as soon as you walked in there. And that's really the only thing that saved their asses, because otherwise it could have been pretty rough. But they managed to get the Staff of Power. They basically give it to Xerophon, the doppelganger's like, hey, I think you should go ahead and do what you need to do with this. Is like, okay, where do you want me to do with it? I mean, I can break it, but if I break it, I mean, there's a pretty sizable chance I'm just gonna die. And they're like, oh, well, let's wait until like we'll see the moment. We'll know the moment when it happens. So, they had also discussed and talked to, if you remember, Veneranda, the helmed horror / brain in the jar that is on the first floor of the tower of Eriolothus, who also wants the staff also to go back in time with the obelisk. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll get that to you just as soon as we find it. So after they get done, rather than going back by her office, they just plane shift out and head over to the Tower of Conjuration, take a rest, and start gathering their allies. So literally the first thing that happens at 1 o'clock when we started the game is started rolling real dice. And you can look at the I think I have a picture of it posted. Is they get confronted by, actually no, I don't. Christian, did you take a picture of the Tomb Tappers and the Helmed Horror fighting you guys?
I don't know if I got that one. I think someone did. I think your brother did. It's
Okay,
somewhere in the like 80-something pictures that he posted to the group.
Yeah, I'll have to check. I haven't looked through this since afternoon. But so essentially they come out of this tower, and I built terrain for pretty much all the encounters I had planned. And I know the stats of the Helmed Horror, and the Helmed Horror is kind of cool, but it's still just the Helmed Horror, and they're 15th level NPC, or 15th level PCs with a powerful assassin doppelganger in tow. They figured they would have no problems with this guy, so I kind of considered this to be the warm up for a bunch of players who've been playing online for 4 or 5 years to actually throw down. So they had to fight. They were, of course, confronted by Veneranda, who's like, hey, remember that promise you told me? And like the rogue's like, we didn't really make a promise. It's like, I see then, attack. And then suddenly 2 Tomb Tappers pop up, and then she starts attacking as well. And it was a very, very quick combat. Let's just say that. The only thing that kind of gave them any hiccup was I think I used Highmark's version of the Helmed Horror, and it had like adaptive runes on her or something like that, which allowed her to A, be immune to 2nd level blow spells, and B, the first spell that she fails to save against, she becomes immune to for the next minute, like the entire school of magic. So she failed to save versus Chain Lightning. So like they're like the druid and the wizard and the cleric are all pumping like evocation spells at her, and she's like, nope. And they're like, what the fuck? She's immune to fire. She's immune to lightning. She's immune to cold. What the fuck? It's like, couldn't figure out. I was like, no, she's just a fucking cool ass construct is what she is.
The paladin and I discovered that she was not immune to swords.
She, in fact, was not immune to swords. So that was the first encounter. That didn't take any time at all. They maybe, I think they got hit a couple of times, maybe by the Tomb Tapper or something, but not much else. The second encounter, they had different options. So essentially, I had some trains set up, and there was a series of like obelisks set around, and it described that since they had gone to rest inside effectively the Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion within the Tower of Conjuration, that the Frostmaiden had come to the city, and she is basically just has a gale force winds destroying the buildings that are there, uncovering things that were buried beneath the snow, and like the terrain outside is completely changed. So it's basically a bunch of ruins, and it looks like essentially a ruined building, and within it were a bunch of obelisks. So they make some checks of investigation, survival, try to figure out where they're trying to go, and that they had already talked to their allies, and their allies or the archmages basically said, we're not the high conjurer, but I know that he had ways of getting people through the protections that Iroth has set up here. So I don't. We have some notes. All we have is some runes. You guys need to figure out how to do that. So they, noticed two different things. One was like where they think that whatever this device is that they're looking for, and another one was they saw something glowing in the distance that could be White Walkers within the snow. You can't really see, low visibility because of the complete whiteout of the winter storm that's there. And they decided to go see if they can find the device. And I had basically created sort of a puzzle, and it was a 3-tier puzzle that had 6 runes on the first circle, 6 runes in the second circle, and then sort of a pointer that also turned on top of that, and then 3 portals around it. Each of the portals had colors tied to them. Each of the runes essentially the solving of the puzzle was you had 2 different runes that were color coded to the portal that they were activated to, and they had to basically line up the 2 runes, which you can only turn it once per person per action. You have to make either an Arcana or Strength check to do it, and then you point in the direction of where the portal is located. And they figured it out fairly quickly, but as they were doing it, every round a portal opened and spit out a bunch of random monsters from a different portion of Winter's Hall, the Frostmaiden's domain. So the first portal opens up, and I think it was 5 frost giants, 2 of which were priests of Arl. And then the second portal opens up, and it's like, I want to say like 7 ice trolls. And then the third portal opens up, and it's like a pack of winter wolves. And they're just busy trying to like look for runes and trying to like, okay, like the fighter and the wizard are next to this thing. Like she's trying to turn it with her Arcana, he's trying to turn it with strength, and everyone else is just trying to survive and like push things back or throw up balls of force or do whatever they can to make it happen. So they managed to make it happen, and it took a while, but they didn't take much in the way of casualties. And they eventually managed to figure it out and kind of reversed it. So they what was that?
That's Chris's cat snoring.
Oh, is it being picked up?
Yeah.
Dear God, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were like dying over there, Chris. What is happening?
No, that's just Blaze snoring. He always curls up underneath me. I got my mic up and he sleeps. And I'm sorry, I'll mute. Hold on.
Okay.
I do want to point out real quick, in this scenario that we're in with this portal and stuff, your brother figured it out. No like skill check rolling or anything. He just looked at the stuff around on the battlefield, looked at the thing, and figured it out how to do it.
Yeah.
Which I appreciated, instead of everyone else that was just like, what skills can I roll?
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say, like, everybody was very, very excitedly looking at the train, because I'd spent a lot of time on the train setting it up, and I do have a picture of that one up. And you can see the one where they're fighting the five giants, which the wizard did a bang up job taking care of the giants by landing a slow spell on them.
Oh
And
yeah.
they just couldn't get to them in time to really do anything before they got blasted by 4 fireballs and a wall of fire, I think. It's like, Jesus Christ, okay. I think they maybe got off like a couple of shots with a bow or something like that. And I think the 2 clerics got off some sort of like column of ice ability, which is similar to like Ice Storm. And that was it. They got punked. But yeah, they definitely did a good job taking care of it. And it handled it pretty handily, and so they managed to essentially convert the portals to basically summon in all of the people that I mentioned before, and essentially they had to name an individual or a group that they want to bring, and then sacrifice something that is important to them that ties them to that, and basically state a memory of something about what they did. So basically, we had 8 different instances of people and their memories of stuff that happened in the last 5 years in the game, and various points where they managed to do something good and gain an ally. And essentially all these allies come rushing through the portals as these portals that were open to the Frostmaiden's home turf were basically spawning in hundreds of enemies. So like they were only fighting for like 6 rounds here by the portals to convert them over, but essentially the allies show up just in time essentially to beat back all the enemies so that they don't have to fight ice trolls and frost giants and winter wolves and all sorts of other bullshit whenever they actually go through it with the Frostmaiden. So at that point in time, I start saying these are the abilities that you get from the allies, but we'll get to that in just a minute. The Mythalar is only a couple hundred yards away. Are you guys going to head that way? And like, yes, let's go. And they're still toting along the Summer Star from the Black Cabin scenario.
Oh man!
And basically have so a couple of my players left a couple of years ago, and we gained a couple of players. And one of the easiest ways for me to work in the new player was to use Copper, who's the priest of Lathander, who's already part of the module. He's the one that basically wrote up all the notes for McCready for the Black Cabin. So like Copper's there. He's their cleric now.
Copper was the gnome that wore the fucking teddy bear outfit.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, the Black Cabin, I remember that killed one of my players' characters.
Oh yeah, killed one of mine. Killed one of ours too. You got disintegrated.
Yeah. That's what happened.
It killed 2 of mine.
Yeah. It's a very dangerous,
nasty little scenario.
So they start heading towards there, and like they still don't have much in the way of visibility, but they stumble upon basically the other scenario that they decided not to go encounter first. And what they find is, if you see the pictures, is Chris, I haven't played Descent of Avernus, but I think this is a miniature that is based on something that appears in that. It's called the Weeping Colossus. Have you heard about that? Read about that?
Let me look it up. I'll let you know.
But I printed this in like a translucent blue and white filament and put a light in it and kind of put it on a little spinning spindle. And
okay, I thought it was like a frost elemental or something.
Well, it kind of is. So in I want to say in, I guess, 4th edition, some lore that I didn't really know anything about, but digging deep into like all the history of the Frostmaiden that I could find, going back to like early ass Dragon magazine issues. So she had a second child, because there's a child Nelkara that appears, I want to say, in one of the Waterdeep adventures. Basically, she is a not a Titan. What's the other big ass thing?
Primordial?
Not a primordial, but it's something. It's because of the P. You'll find it. But anyway, her name's Nalkara, but she dies at the end of in some official module, but she was the child of her and Thrym, the frost giant god. But she had another kid, and that kid was with the god Targos, which was a god of war, who ends up getting killed like a millennia ago. And apparently, the kid, rather than being like a demigod or anything like that, was basically this colossal ice elemental, a name Zykakel Arctus, I think. And that actually first appeared as a monster stats in the Epic Level Handbook of 3rd edition. It gives you a baseline of how powerful this stupid thing is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But it reappears in 4th edition, and apparently reappears in, I guess, maybe the Neverwinter Nights version of online version of Rime of the Frostmaiden or Icewind Dale or some crap. At any rate, it comes and goes in the story for a while. But the last entry, if you look on the Forgotten Realms Wikipedia, is that essentially, I think 10, 20 years earlier, the Frostmaiden released her son, who had been trapped in the Redhead Glacier for 1,000 years because she just didn't want him anymore after she absorbed the portfolio of her ex. But she got mad at Icewind Dale like she always does, and released him to go savage Icewind Dale until the hero of Neverwinter, quote unquote, banished him back to the wretched glacier. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Hell yeah, he's gonna be there, and we're gonna have somebody trying to take him out of the ice. And I'm like, what could I use to take him out of the ice? And I start reading through the Dragon magazines, like, oh, Aurel's handmaidens are winter hags. Fantastic. We'll have a coven of those. And they're like, what could they be using though? It's like, you know what? They left that sphere of annihilation in the museum. That's perfect. So they show up and like he's half unburied from the ice, and the coven of hags are all invisible, and all they see is just a black sphere going around and around this glowing thing that is in the ice, and they're all looking at it like, what the fuck are we looking at? And the ranger's wearing a robe of ice, so she can see the hags. She's like, there's 3 hags controlling that sphere of annihilation. We're like, shit, we can't leave this here. We're just gonna have to fight this when we fight her. If we don't fight this now, they're like, okay. So remember, I think I mentioned on last week's podcast that I would be using Pyroborg Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I didn't really modify it at all. The only modifications I had, I still just used a D6. 4, 5, 6 PCs go first. 1, 2, and 3 enemies go first. The only thing that modified it was that the Ranger and the Paladin both had bonuses to initiative, so I let them just roll it with advantage. And the Cleric had an item that allowed him basically to force an enemy to make a saving throw, or he would swap initiatives with them. So I allowed him to use that once. Otherwise, that was just it. And so the hags noticed the PCs because we have clank, lots of people in armor, and they basically are about to throw down. And I think it was the Ranger that rolled the initiative. She got advantage, so she managed to get the PCs to go first. So I want to say she shot the lead hag, which is like the grandmother hag, like, you know, shot him like 4 times. She's a Gloomstalker Ranger. She gets that extra attack on the first round, and she's using, to start off, she always fires off 2 hand crossbows, so it ends up actually with the bonus action being 4 attacks using whatever it is that gives you plus 10 damage. Like, she unloaded on her and did a ton of damage, but she was still standing because she's got like 180 hit points or something like that. And she kind of turns to the doppelganger they still have along with her with the Staff of Power and says, I think you should use that staff now.
Oh, no.
He's like, okay. And everyone else agrees, like, yeah, now's the time. So he runs in there and then fucking breaks it over his knee with a Retributive Strike. And he had actually already used 20 charges because, like, he's trying to self-preserve over here. So he used to cast fireballs at all the crap at the portals earlier. So there's still 30 charges in there. But you take 16 times the damage, or 16 times the number of charges that are still remaining. If you're
Yeah.
if you don't get shunted off to another plane. And he sure did, and he sure got disintegrated, and all the shit clattered to the ground. But the other 2 hags all got disintegrated. Oh, actually, all the 3 hags got disintegrated, because the first one, the only one that would have survived the Retributive Strike, had already taken 100 hit points from the Ranger. The other 2 just fucking got obliterated. And they only had to fight this epic level monster with half of its HP. So that's what happened to the Staff of Power.
And that answers that question.
Yeah, and the fight was actually going to be pretty rough too, because I had made them all handmaidens of the Frostmaiden. So in addition to being hags, like winter hags, which is basically upstated Bayeur hags, Bheur, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
They all basically also had the ability to transform into white dragons as well, like a bonus action from a druid. So if they actually managed to get to their turn, they would have, plus 150 to 200 hit points from the 2 aunties turning into young white dragons and the grandmother turning into an adult white dragon, and then they have to contend with that in addition to this big fucking monster. So they honestly made the best choice they could there. But they again, though, looked at the Sphere of Annihilation. It's like, nah, and left it.
Oh my god. That's your next campaign.
I know.
It's going to start off with the fucking Sphere of Annihilation doing something.
It's still burrowing a hole in the world.
Yep.
Sets free the Tarrasque.
Yep. So they finally get to the Mythalar, and I put up a couple of pictures of those. I have those with just like the black light on, and you can see I have a big throne there with a pretty lady sitting in it, and I've got the glowing orb in the cradle that for whatever reason, I mean, it's this cheap thing I got off of Amazon for like $10 and kind of modified and hacked together. And it worked for about 5 minutes the way I wanted it to, then would start changing colors the wrong way. And they would move sometimes, then not move other times. Like, whatever. And it's too late for me to care anymore. But essentially what I had was the way I did this, because I did, I know you guys ran it by the book, but I've been running it for so long and I never run anything quite by the book. I didn't like the way that you can end the game, because the two official endings, really, I guess if you don't TPK, are you kill her and she's gone until what, midwinter, and she's
Something
like, "I'm
like
back,
that, yeah.
bitches," or you don't kill her and then you slap the obelisk with the staff and you go back in time to specifically like
that
2 weeks
is
before.
an option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fall of
Two
Netheril,
weeks
yeah.
before the fall, and so not even 2 weeks before the fall of Netheril. It's 2 weeks before the destruction of Yithrin, because destruction of Yithrin does not coincide with the fall of Netheril. It's 5 years later, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
that's right.
Because the spindle is what brings down Yithrin, and the Karsus's crown, that's what brings down Netheril.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I didn't like those two endings. I mean, I was going to leave it as an option for them to use Staff of Power on it. It was there. It was dangled in front of them. They decided, no, fuck time travel. Not doing that. So the reason why there's the throne there, in addition to the fact that I really like the miniatures I put together in the terrain, is that essentially it's not really explained why Frostmaiden casts the Rime every night, really, at all in the book, which is kind of weird and lame. Other than she wants to keep it cold. So, yay, everlasting winter. I took it a step further as to why she'd also be there and wanting to take over the Mythalar, which is basically, she's been banished by the other lords of the lords of a Tempest? No, lords of oh god,
Gods of Fury.
Gods of Fury. By the other Gods of Fury, because she's a bitch, and she definitely stole the Tempest portfolio from the Talos.
Umberly.
Yeah, from Umberly, yeah. And she basically is trying to convert this area to her domain, but she's transferring essentially her portion of the Winter's Hall in the Deep Wild to this place. So essentially, I had her sitting in her throne in the Deep Wild, translucent there, and that basically is the source of her lair actions. And basically the lair actions I had her do a mass dispel magic, and I'd have her use basically a command on a certain person every round with a high 22 to 24 DC of command approach, command kneel, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, the rest of the combat pretty much follows the way it's written up in the book, other than the fact that obviously I increased the stats of the 3 forms of the Frostmaiden to be more appropriate to 15th level characters, and they still had the Coat of Soul of White with them, and they also had the Snow Maiden's Reaver, which I had Bjorn Hilda using whenever they fought her. Snow Maiden's Reaver is from, I think, Icewind Dale 1 video game. And it's basically just an artifact of the Frostmaiden. So essentially, the Paladin's carrying Snow Maiden's Reaver, but not using it, and the Ranger's carrying the Coat of Soul of White, but not using it. And she flies in on her rock and immediately summons both of them to her hands, and then lets them go. And as she lets them go, essentially she resurrects Lysan, which is the villain from the first Icewind Dale game, which is just a high level cleric of the Frostmaiden, and then Bjorn Hilda, who's just a big redhead nomad fighter. And essentially since they had basically either nullified all the other minions and everything that she could come up with all their allies, basically it was just they had to fight her and her two dudes, and that was it. And if they had not summoned and made deals and sacrificed to get all of their allies, it would have been a lot harder because a lot of the ice-based abilities are things that slow you, restrain you, grapple you, things like that. I literally had plans to. There's a 15th level game, so the last second session to have the rock. The rock has an instant grapple if it gets you with the talons to grab you and fucking drop your ass in the Mythalar, and you take like 280 fucking points of force damage and get disintegrated when you drop into that shit. And I actually, I had handed off the doppelganger because I forgot to mention they actually used the doppelganger. The doppelganger had a luck blade with 2 wishes in it, and they bound to it after he got disintegrated by using the staff.
Fuck yeah.
And then it resurrected him. So he was there in the final fight, and I was like, Christian, I can't control all this crazy shit myself. You control the doppelganger, and the Rock had like attacked the doppelganger, and I thought had grabbed him and then threw him into the Mythalar, and I was like, wait a minute, you guys all have freedom of movement because one of the abilities, because essentially, I mentioned earlier the whole Baldur's Gate gather your allies thing. These allies were neutralizing enemies, but their indirect abilities were, I basically came up with a list of different things that they would be doing to help them. And essentially, if you could call them in individually, they would be able to do something cool, but then whatever the indirect benefit you were getting from it's gone. So, for example, for Hathawin the Dryad, along with all the awakened animals and friends like that, you could either bring in their owlbear companion, who had like 150 hit points at this point, had plus 10 or 12 to attack, and does a lot of damage. Or you have freedom of movement for the entire party. Essentially, it's just mass freedom of movement. So, like, almost all of the abilities that really would have fucked them, they were immune to. Like the Frostmaiden could entomb you, like essentially just a personal coffin of ice. But once you've done 50 points of damage to it, you're still grappled. Except, well, you're not you're immune to grappled, so you just kind of slither on out of it. So they pretty much after I think they called in basically called in an airstrike once. Realized that it's probably better just to keep the indirect things, and then said, "No, let's just do this ourselves, guys." Because also half their allies end up dying whenever they do whatever their thing. They're doing the certain ally ends up dying if they end up doing that. Because I want to say the Goliath Paladin called in the Goliath clans to come down under Griffins to attack the Frostmaiden, and they did, but like they did 30 points of damage because they don't all have magic weapons, and half of them end up dying and get thrown into the frickin' Mythalar, and he's like, I regret this. But I mean, it was like plus 20 to hit, to, do 20d6 damage from all the guys attacking, but like, yeah, the rolls weren't great. But other things they got, like I said that I had the flump with the spelljammer overhead. So essentially, either they could like do a big blast from the spelljammer, or they could have the flump just basically keep a beacon of hope on them. Of course, they kept the beacon of hope because it's maximized healing and it's fantastic. The Goliath clans, until they called in that little airstrike, were basically giving the equivalent of Frost Giant strength. So everybody gets a strength of 23.
Good lord.
Or 3 of the PCs, I think, did.
3 people got it.
By the time they got it, though, most of the people either had a belt or were using a potion or already had a 20 strength. It wasn't much of a change, to be honest.
They finally used those potions that they've been sitting on forever.
They used the shit out of their potions, man. I was very proud of them. You had the drow priestess of Felicitrade, just giving them a plus D4 to saves and resistance to necrotic damage, which also really helped out because Frostmaiden's DCs were like 22. Yeah. At any rate, they end up taking out all 3 forms of her, and I had her basically erupt in divine energy, and they also had to make a charisma save, of which pretty much nobody is trained in charisma saves except for the paladin, who does actually save. And miraculously, because of the plus D4 save that they have, specifically, the ranger saved. While everyone else dropped down to 1 hit point, incapacitated, basically just able to watch what's happening. And what happens is essentially the translucent form of the Frostmaiden sitting on the throne stands up and screams, which makes everybody drop other than those two people. And then the two people have to figure out what to do. So they try to heal their comrades, can't heal them. Essentially, they're stuck like this until otherwise notified. So they both the ranger and the paladin are like, "What the fuck do I do?" So the paladin's like, "Mister, what do I do? Oh, I don't know what to do." Blah blah blah. The ranger's like, I guess I'll bind to this thing. I don't know what to do. I'll change the weather." So that was the plan. We're going to change the weather. We're going to bring the sun back. We're going to do that. So the ranger binds to it while the paladin's trying to talk to Mistra, and Paladin's basically just asking Mom, "Is it okay if I kill this bitch?" Like, I don't know what to do here. So what they end up doing, is the ranger, after binding to it, like realizes she can change the weather. She changes the weather, and the winter starts melting away almost immediately, and all the storms within the glacier cease immediately, and she looks back and like the form of the Frostmaiden is still just standing there against her throne, seems to be frozen in terror. And she's like, okay, she pulls out her holy symbol, and Fizzband shows up basically in her mind, and she's like, hey, what's up? What you doing? And she's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. What happens is she actually dead? And it's like, well, gods didn't die. I can't. She does. As of right now, though, I think she's just going to come back about a year or so. It's like, well, how do we kill her permanently? It's like, well, he looks over to the Mythalar, looks back at her. I think you have all the resources you need. And she's like, oh, okay. And she uses the Mythalar to push the Frostmaiden into it.
All right.
And effectively, because I said that her domain was becoming Icewind Dale, and Icewind Dale is becoming her domain. Even in Forgotten Realms, like if you kill a god in their domain, they're fucking dead.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay,
that
cool.
has always been the standard in Forgotten Realms. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. That's perfectly fine. Because like at this point in time, they're like, all we're doing is just delaying until she comes back and is a complete asshole and kills people again. So let's just get rid of her. So they did, and as soon as she did that, they end up basically floating through limbo because the two domains and were not quite merged, and the god that was binding them together is now dead. So now they're trying to figure out what happens. All the other PCs get freed, and they try to start figuring out what to do. They all bind to the Mythalar, because if one person's bound to it, they can do like a minimal amount of things. But if 8 people are doing it, like the 8 archmages were, essentially they can all control it, move the city or whatever. So they all bind to it, come back to Yithrin, pick up all their allies, and then essentially lift up within 500 feet of the Mythalar and fly it out of the glacier to get everybody back into Icewind Dale as the sun's rising. And that's mostly where it ends. However, I didn't write this part, but it felt like it was appropriate. I had, again, everyone's played Baldur's Gate, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows who Withers is, like
Mhm.
actually.
Yes.
Jurgle, the Lord of the End.
Jay
So
doesn't believe me.
What?
Whatever.
You didn't believe me when I told you.
So I had Withers show up, and I was pretty fucking hallucinating out of my mind. So I don't know how it came off whenever I was doing it. Christian can tell you otherwise. I don't think he was as tired as I was. But I had him show up and basically, and all the NPCs, they were still talking to some of the NPCs, but he kind of walks right through the NPCs, and the NPCs clearly don't notice that he's there. And he starts talking to them, and they don't flip out too much. And essentially, I leave them with a choice of, said essentially, the Frostmaiden has passed. It is a possibility that she could come back if enough followers were to make it so. But as of right now, her portfolio is hanging in the balance, and and only so much time until the other gods take notice. You either try to take it, or somebody else tries to take it. And essentially gave them the offer of, if one of you guys want to take on the mantle, you may do so, but you have to decide now.
Mines.
And you're talking to one of the guys that might have stepped forward, and that would be Christian. And
Yep.
Christian is now the new god of winter and tempest of Forgotten Realms as his character.
And that's how you become a god in Forgotten Realms.
That is one of the ways, absolutely.
Easier than just drinking some blood.
Yep.
Easier and definitely more time consuming, but yeah, he essentially gave them enough time to say their goodbyes, and then sort of walking off into the sunset with Withers, and they both kind of disappeared as the PCs are walking. And the last thing that they heard him say was, "Well, we need to get you moving.
Stay
so
frosty.
There's a bit of a orientation period. Blah blah blah." They talking about filling out some forms when you get to your domain.
I'm like, oh no, meetings.
Yeah, there's a lot
Paperwork.
of ins and outs here. Got to sign the line.
Here's your sprint for as in the new Frost deity.
Oh,
Okay,
gosh.
so as the new CEO of the Frost domain,
And I will say, it was not in any way, shape, or form of A, me planning that at all, and B, all the other PCs agreed to it. Like, it was one of those things, like, taking a poll, like, unless all of you agree to who is going to do it, then none of you get to do it. And
I
like,
mean,
it wasn't even a choice. Like, everyone else is like, okay.
It's always great when Wither shows up, though.
Yeah, I mean, I had not even planned for him to show up. I did not know how I was going to handle it, because I was trying to, like, what would AO do? I'm like, AO doesn't really do shit, is what he'd send somebody. I feel like Withers would be right for this.
yeah,
Why
AO
not?
AO doesn't really interact with anything.
No, he doesn't.
No.
So
Not unless enough gods have pissed him off, and then he'll come down and just strip them all.
And I'll say, like, it was late. I wanted to, like, have everybody tell me what their characters planned on doing afterwards and everything like that. But as I was kind of handing out the busts of their characters with their titles and whatnot on it, they were still discussing of, like, what the fuck are we gonna do with this Mythalar, and, like, and they're talking to the Archmages. The Archmages is like, it's dangerous, but it's not something you can just destroy. You can't hide it. People will know it's here. People know it exists now, and people will crave and want it. We'll have to figure out what to do with it, because I have no idea. And, like, they were busy discussing on what their characters were going to do. I'm like, okay, guys, the game is over now. You guys can think about what your character's going to do. I'm not running whatever that's going to be, though.
Oh, you better be planning an epic level campaign is what you need to be doing.
I am not planning. Listen to me. I have tried running an epic level campaign in D&D 5e, and it is miserable. I am sorry, I cannot do that. It's, oh my god, it's so much.
Now,
It's so much work. It's so much work. Is what
now
it is.
it's my turn to run a game, and it's time for Shadowdark.
Yep,
That
will give Dan enough time to figure out how to make this epic level campaign he's going to run work.
I'll tell you, don't run more 5e.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that way. Yeah, there you go. Epic Shadowdark.
Yeah, level 11 Shadowdark. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the end of my campaign.
So did they ever? I'm guessing they did not use the Comet Scroll or the
No,
Summon.
the Rogue really tried to get them to use the Comet Scroll. They really tried. Nobody really tried to push for the Terras Scroll. It was a discussion a few sessions ago, but they're like, no, this seems terrible. Let's not do this.
Yeah.
But the Comet Scroll, the problem with it is that it's such a huge radius. Like, there's never a part, like, in Yithrin that you could be where you would not be affecting yourself. You would be basically committing suicide by doing it.
Yeah. God, what was when I finished the campaign, my players had the scrolls in their possession. The wizard specifically had them in his possession, and the game was over with and everything. But the player, after the game, it is like, okay, so now that that's all said and done, I cast those scrolls. He was just jonesing to do it, and I never gave him any follow up or anything. But if I ever ran a Forgotten Realms campaign again, there's
Begins
a
with the
fucking
apocalypse starting with a
right.
comet, then a
Yeah,
Taraz.
a comet appears, destroys all of Icewind Dale, and then a fucking Taraz starts wandering the northern lands. Like that's how that would end up.
And the first thing you got to do actually is release a Tarask, then you nuke it from orbit with the fucking
Yeah, there you
the
go.
comet. But then it kind of keeps walking through. It's like, welp, shit.
Yep. All right. Well,
It's fairly crazy, and it definitely sounds like it was a real good time.
Yeah.
It was a blast. It was
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
and
Good.
next, Christian, you're running Planescape in Shadowdark.
I am running Planescape. I love that setting, and yeah, I'm running in Shadowdark. I can't tell you how relieved I was when everyone was like, "Yeah, okay, we'll do it in Shadowdark," because I was stressing out over how to try to figure out how to make it work the way I wanted to in 5e, because 5e is just not
In 5e,
built for.
you kind of would have to build all of the classes and all. Yeah, it'd be a lot of work.
It'd be
Oh,
it was a lot, and I just feel like it's so much easier in Shadowdark. It'll be such a better
Wait.
time.
So is Planescape in Shadowdark Plain Dark or Shadowscape?
I am just calling my campaign Planescape Dark.
Planescape Dark. There you go.
fantastic.
That works.
I've been trying to think of how to run a Shadowrun game in Shadowdark, but then it would just be Shadowdark or
Dark Run?
Dark
Dark
Run,
Run.
maybe?
Dark
Yeah,
Run.
Dark Run.
yeah,
Dark
Dark
Run.
Run, I guess.
Mhm.
Anyway, so yeah, that's gonna do it. I think next week we'll talk a little bit about Shadowdark since me and Christian have both sort of been reading through it, and I started playing the video games again like an idiot.
Shadowrun,
So,
yeah.
Shadowrun.
Yep, Shadowrun.
Yep.
All right, thanks for listening. We're out of here. Bye, Craig.
Bye,
Wait.
y'all.
What about the
Well-
psionics?